Today, watch this.
Bernie, I was surprised to read about some Melbourne academics who are calling for the recognition of the killing of infants. I was absolutely stunned to read about that.
I was a little bit surprised myself, I have to say, although I shouldn't be, because the logic is very clear. If you can kill a child a week before he or she is born, why shouldn't you be able to kill a child a week after he or she is born? So the logic is perfectly in order, in my view. Totally wrong on either count. It is wrong to kill a child, whether that child is a week before birth or a week after or 6 months before birth. It doesn't matter. But once you start killing children, once that has been established as the norm, it's very hard to know where to stop. And I think that's what the point that these people had adopted and were running with.
What also surprised me, as I understand it, there was no suggestion about the reasons.
One does not need reasons in Victoria. We have a law in this state which says that you can kill a child right up until birth for any reason at all, or none. You don't need to express a reason. So it should mean again logic. If you can kill a child for no reason at all right up until birth, that you would kill a child with that child has something wrong with it or otherwise, for how much longer after birth? After that child is born. That's the question. How long do we go? 1 year? Do we go 2 years? Or then you've got some who would turn it on to older people, to sick people, to the disabled. And of course, recently we had the greatest proponent of euthanasia that Australia has ever produced, the greatest proponent of infanticide that Australia has ever produced, Professor, and I use that in inverted commas, Peter Singer, being given the highest honour in the land. Now that sends a message that the Australian government supports those who support the killing of children who have disabilities. And as the father of a child with a disability, I have to say I felt very sick, physically sick, when I heard that he had been honoured in that way, and I'm just appalled that we've got to this point.
Just one final question, and that is, I've read that with the euthanasia laws in some European countries, euthanasia has been applied to people. They've been euthanized, killed, without their specific consent.
Oh, indeed in Holland, where euthanasia, I think, has been a part of the landscape over there for some years, over 50%, so figures have shown recently, over 50% of people who were euthanized, killed, were euthanized without their permission. So the voluntary has gone out the window. As we have often said, the voluntary euthanasia debate or the voluntary euthanasia argument is a very powerful one, particularly for somebody like myself who believes in freedom of choice. But it doesn't take long for the right to die to become the duty to die. And that's what we've seen in Holland, and I've no doubt that we'd see it happen here, and I no doubt in Tasmania they're pushing for it again. It would happen here, it would happen anywhere. Once you start killing people, where do you stop? And I think that's a question that we really have to answer before we go down that track.
Just one last question, if I may. I've read of a questionnaire which was put up, I think, on the ABC, which allowed children to calculate their carbon footprint and to decide when they should die, so that they would not be going beyond what was thought to be the appropriate carbon footprint. Have you heard of that?
I heard something about it, yes, and I can only say that whoever came up with that scheme really should follow their own advice. They should practice what they preach, work out their own carbon imprint, and then they can follow suit.
Bernie, thank you very much. That's very clear.
A very great pleasure.
Thank you.